B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. Back here from Eretz HaKodesh, from Yerushalayim, Baruch Hashem, during this amazing trip that we've had here, Baruch Hashem, giving you another shiur, despite the war, and in fact, because of the war, we're here trying to learn with you together, Baruch Hashem, on a regular basis each day, to get some more chizuk at this very, very serious time of need. So we'll give you some updates of some things, some of obviously the big event that happened last night, some other things that are happening, Baruch Hashem. Tonight's shiur is going to be for the refuah shlema and atzlacha rabba for Rabbi Efraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Avi Mori David ben Nesriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Joa, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahis that continue to support all the wonderful things that our organization is doing, Baruch Hashem. With that being said, we, Baruch Hashem, had our biggest event ever last night. For anyone that didn't tune in live last night and you didn't come to the event, certainly you missed out. I know that many of you that thought about coming but either couldn't come or simply didn't come, regretted it after you saw the event. But Baruch Hashem, this is not the last event we're ever going to have. BeEzrat HaShem will have others. The BeEzrat HaShem will be no less significant, but we just have to come up with bigger and bigger news, because the news that came out last night is something that certainly fought the Yetzer Hara in a very big way. And to start off, we had, Baruch Hashem, over 3,000 Siyumim in a single night, between the several dozen Siyumei HaShas Bavli that we had, all of the Baruch Hashem, all of the different Avrechim, and even one young 16-year-old Bachur completed the Shas Bavli in a single year. A few of them actually completed it a couple of times, and Baruch Hashem, we had a whole large group of kids, a few dozen young kids that are under the age of 13, complete the Shas Mishnayot, which was a monumental thing. And then, of course, we had our own dear Rosh Kollel, Rav Shlomo Sharvit, one of our Dayanim and the Rosh Kollel. He completed the Shulchan Aruch. Rav Efraim was Baruch Hashem the Mesayem of Mesayimim. There was something unbelievable where he completed the Shas Bavli, the Shas Yerushalmi, the Tosefta, the Midrash Rabbah, the entire Tanakh, with, of course, serious amount of commentary on it, the Mishnah, and I'm forgetting something. And the Shulchan Aruch as well, and Tana Devei Eliyahu. All of it in the last year, and he actually, if he didn't say it, then I wouldn't be allowed to say it, but he said it himself, Baruch Hashem. Not only the different stories of his childhood, where he was had a lot of trouble with different yeshivot when he was a kid, where they thought that he was a wild kid and caused a lot of trouble and made him switch from school to school, yeshiva to yeshiva, said that he had to take all types of medicine in order to be normal. And of course his tzadikah mother and tzaddik father did not agree to this, and they despite his what he calls shovavut, his wild acting and just being a wild kid, eventually he decided to use all of that extra energy to put it into the Torah. And Baruch Hashem, one of the amazing things among the many things that he did in the last 12 months, aside from all of these Siyumim, is complete the entire Talmud Bavli in 48 days. In 48 days, because he didn't have the time to do what every one of the other Mesayimim was doing, which is to learn 7 dapim per day. So instead he decided to just do the whole week's amount in a single day, and in so many words it ended up being completing the entire Shas in 48 days. So when people that learn hear such a thing, they either get very, very inspired that they can do a lot more than what they're doing, or they become weak and sometimes even jealous in a negative way, saying how could such a thing be possible? But the truth is that since the day I've met my own very dear Rav, Efraim, the only thing I've ever seen him desire, think about, or simply dream about is learning more and more Torah, but a lot more than what the normal person that we're used to seeing even wants, even people that love the Torah. And this requires an enormous amount of sacrifice every single day. And the beauty of it is that he started in a very similar path like many other people, where he was a kid. He was actually a little bit more troublemaker than the average kid out there, and had a little bit of a tough time finding a place, but ultimately through the Torah he not only rose above it, but rose beyond it. And it's certainly something that we've seen in other major Chachamim throughout history. Some of them have had similar stories where they were very, very, overly energetic kids that nobody understood until they finally found their home in the Torah, Baruch Hashem. So with that, it wasn't a surprise after all of these Siyumim and all of the other wonderful things and extraordinary things that Rabbi Efraim has done. It wasn't such a surprise to anyone that knows him that what was the decision by the two giant Chachamim, two Gedolim that are close to our organization and our hearts, Rav Yaakov Zamir, the chief Dayan of the Bet Din Agadol, the chief Bet Din of Israel. He's the head Dayan there, and in so many words, he's the chief Dayan in all of Israel, other than the Rishon LeZion. And also the Av Bet Din of the business part of the Bet Din of Jerusalem, Rav Gidon Ben Moshe, when both of them signed off as on the official launch of the Bet Din Tzedek BeEzrat HaShem, or the organization BeEzrat HaShem's official Bet Din, which BeEzrat HaShem will start off here in Israel. Ultimately, we're looking forward to also having that in the United States as well. Just waiting for certain logistics, instructions, plans of what to do and how to do it. But the ultimate goal is to bring this not just to one place, but as something that will be helpful both in Israel as well as in the U.S. So this certainly is going to be a very big news to some people that are close to us, and I know it's going to be no less big news to some of the people that hate us, because it's not something we're deciding on our own. It's something that you have some of the biggest Chachamim of the generation support, Baruch Hashem. And of course, one of the other major things that we saw last night in the big event, aside from all of the tikkunim and all of the tests that happened, where you had the government nearly shut down the entire event, hundreds of people weren't allowed in right away, and some of them didn't go in at all. Some of them had to wait a couple of hours to be finally let in, which Baruch Hashem, the vast majority of people ended up coming in ultimately and stayed for for several hours and enjoyed the event. But aside from that, there was also a very big gift that we got at the end of the event, where we saw several of the Gdolei Ador make a special video dedicated to us, supporting the organization and everything that we're doing, which BeEzrat HaShem we're working on already right now to translate it and have subtitles in different languages, which BeEzrat HaShem will be publicized soon. Last but not least, something that's actually wasn't announced in last night's event, but I'm telling you right now, which is the BeEzrat HaShem app. The BeEzrat HaShem app just got a major update. This update took a enormous amount of work and effort to finally be launched. Make sure you update the app, because then you're going to have a lot of new features that we never had before, different languages, shurim from not just myself, also from Rav Efraim, from Rav Lev Leib, from Rav Shlomo Sharvit, the other Avrichim in our Kollel. A lot of new features, different languages in the app. BeEzrat HaShem, we're also going to start answering some questions there as well. So a lot of cool things. Update the app as soon as possible. If you don't have the app, then get it. You can get it on our website, BeEzratHashem.org. On the front page, you'll have a link over there, or you could just go to BeEzratHashem.org//get app, something like that. Best to just simply go to the website and download it from there. So, with that being said, we had a lot of good news. There was a lot of big tests. Anyone that saw the event saw we spared no expense in order to make sure we can cater and really reach every one of our fans around the world, not just the people in Israel. So we had a live a person that's actually translating everything that was being said in Hebrew to English. So you actually you have two different videos. One is just a simple, what it was, just the Hebrew, and another one where you hear the Hebrew and then you hear the person actually translating it live on the spot to Hebrew. So a lot of people told me that they enjoyed that, and it really made a big difference for them. Where unlike last year, where they had to wait for the subtitles to come out several weeks later, this one had was something that came out right away. Now, as far as having this video on our app, we weren't successful in doing that. We had some technical issues. And also on YouTube, we had some technical issues. We're still waiting for the main files from the people, so we can actually put it on the app and put it on YouTube and everywhere else. This may take a little time, but we're hoping that it's going to happen this week, BeEzrat HaShem, because we weren't the ones that were recording it like we usually do. Last but not least, something that actually happened today, just several hours ago. We got a video from our own dear Rav Sharvit, who first thing this morning went to go see several hours away Rav David Abuchatzira, who he's very close to, and is someone that he's goes to see from time to time for certain special conditions. And he spoke to him, told him about everything that we've done last night. And Rav David Abuchatzira, for anyone who doesn't know, is one of the Gdolim, one of the Mekubalim of the generation. And he said that the major Siyumim of completion of the entire HaShas by so many people in one day, and all these major things, is made such a big impact in Shemaim, in heaven, that this is what's protecting Am Yisrael right now, which is in the most difficult, dangerous condition they've been in many, many years. And this event made a lot of major improvements in Shemaim, and he said that we have to get 50 more people to complete the HaShas in 1 year, which the good news is that we already got them last night. They signed up, 50 people signed up right off the bat to take on the HaShas after being inspired by all the speeches and everything else. 50 people signed up to complete the HaShas in a single year, which BeEzrat HaShem, last year we started off with 17 and ended up with nearly 100. We're hoping that this year we started with 50 and we'll at the very least have the same multiple effect, and we'll get a few hundred people to complete the HaShas in a single year. Now, anyone that doesn't think or doesn't have the ability for whatever reason or another to complete the HaShas in a single year, you can still contribute to the plans we announced last night, which is for people to sign up to whatever dapim you could commit to this year, whether it's 100 dapim or 1,000 dapim or a couple thousand dapim, or nearly complete the HaShas, whatever you can do, sign up on our on the major thing that we're doing right now for the 1,000,000 dapim of Gemara, 1,000,000 Mishnayot, and 1,000,000 books of Tehillim. So this is something that I discussed last night, where right now, since we are all at war, everyone has to do more than what they're already doing. If you were reading one Tehillim, one entire book of Tehillim a month, now you have to push yourself. Try to do 2, try to do 3, try to do 4. Instead of making phone calls to your girlfriends, instead of going to the mall to shop, instead of wasting time, make sure to read more Tehillim for Am Yisrael. Same thing with the boys. You guys are young, you have all the time in the world. Instead of wasting that time on video games, on all types of nonsense, even if you're learning Torah, you have to push yourself even more. Learn several more Mishnayot. Add yourself to the list as well. Anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about as far as how to get to the list, could just simply contact me, on WhatsApp or email, whatever it is. We'll send you the link of where to sign up. Once you sign up, you'll have a phone number that you could call each month to let them know how many you've done. Each page in the each daf in the HaShas, or each Mishnah in the Mishnah, or each Tehillim in the book of Tehillim is a ticket where each month we're going to announce winners of different prizes, BeEzrat HaShem, that are going to certainly inspire more and more people to do it. But the point being is to do all of this for the sake of improving the judgments in heaven for all of Am Yisrael. So that's the other big thing. Now, with all of that being said, the question is, why is it that we need to improve the judgment for Am Yisrael in heaven? I mean, aren't we already okay? Obviously, everyone knows the answer is no. We're not okay, because if we were okay, the situation wouldn't be the way it is. And needless to say, the few hundred hostages, few hundred hostages that they have, Yimach Shemam v'Zichram, these Hamasniks, these Ishmaelim, Yimach Shemam, they have several hundred or a few hundred of our people, our young kids, our daughters, our sons, our husbands, our wives. They have them as hostages. And Baruch Hashem, last night we got the good news that during the event, these Hamasniks had another attack on themselves, where they pretty much killed themselves with their own missiles that they were trying to shoot at us. And at the same time, the young woman was rescued from from these Hamas terrorists. So the situation is not improving. Obviously, everyone knows the war is picked up. The tension is even higher. They're now attacking on the ground. There's also even more protests around the world, more anti-Semitism around the world. There's a Yemen decided that they're going to join the war as well against Israel. And of course, the situation is becoming more and more tense by the day. At the same time, we see that there are still foolish people out there that are trying to influence Israel to cease their ceasefire, to stop the attack that Hamas started, and we're countering to stop it. And these people think that this is the right way because they believe that you could achieve peace. And the question is peace possible? Is peace possible? Is releasing these prisoners possible? Is it why are they even in there according to the Torah? These are big questions you have to have answers for, because we know that the Torah has answers for everything, and it's important for us to know what those answers are, because people spend a lot of time watching the news. People spend a lot of time, voicing their opinion, which of course everyone thinks that their opinion is the most important, and certainly right, even if they're not really connected to the matter. So we have to know, is peace possible? Now, in order for you to know if peace is possible, you have to know why this happened in the first place. Why this happened in the first place. And our Holy Torah, as I've mentioned in several other places over the last couple of weeks, from the prophets, from the writings, testifies countless times about why these things are happening, why there's an attack, why there's anti-Semitism. And Baruch Hashem, we have another new source that's going to tell us not only why this is happening, but specifically certain things. In the book of Chronicles 2, in chapter 29, in verse number 8 all the way till 12, or the end of 11, it gives us not only the story of the Chizkiyahu, who became king at the age of 25 years old, but it literally gives us clear details of why Hashem does what He does. In verse 8, after we find out that Chizkiyahu has become king, and he reigned for 29 years, and in the first year, in the first month, that he opened up the temple of Hashem and restored them, he brought Kohanim and the Leviim. He was a righteous king. He made people learn Torah. He did good things. But then things turned in a different direction, where it says, and the rage of Hashem was upon Yehudah and Jerusalem. And He, meaning Hashem, and He caused them to be a horror, a desolation, and a cause for whistling, as you see with your own eyes. What does it mean as a cause for whistling? The Bala Mitzudot over there, one of the commentaries, explains that the horrors, destruction that a person sees can cause him to whistle, like saying, whew. And this was in essence, people who hear even about the destruction, and that's so amazing, that's so huge, make this sound. And needless to say, the people that saw it with their own eyes. So he's talking about how there was a major destruction, where the rage of Hashem was upon Yehudah and Yerushalayim. And then he continues, and he explains further. Behold, our fathers have fallen by the sword, and our sons, our daughters, and our wives are in captivity because of this. Here, the book of Chronicles tells us that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is unhappy with our actions, and we don't respond by doing tshuva, the horror gets worse and worse, to the point of destruction that everyone notices, that doesn't stop at buildings, but also destruction of families, where the wives and daughters and sons become hostages. And he specifically says, because of this. It's not because of any other reason. It's not because the enemy figured out a better way to attack. It's not because the army was sleeping that day and the generals were on vacation. It's not because of treason of different liberal lefties that hated the opposite opinion so much that they decided to simply join with the enemy of Israel. No, it's not because of that. It's because we sinned against Hashem. Because we sinned against Hashem, all of these different people that wanted to do evil were allowed to do it. It finally worked. They wanted to do it for a long time. all the evil they did, but either didn't have the courage or didn't have the means. Hashem gave them both due to our sins. And this is what put our sons, daughters, wives in captivity. Not just at the time of Chizkiah, but today. But today. Now he says, now it is in my heart to seal a covenant to Hashem, the God of Israel, so that his burning wrath may recede from us. Here Chizkiah is telling us, enough is enough. Saying never again and watching different army videos and watching the news and making sure you have every one of the articles and videos stored on your phone is certainly not going to help you, nor is it going to help the hostages, nor is it going to help Am Yisrael. You knowing who's shooting, who's this, where the tanks are, how many did we kill, how many are injured, how many this, who thinks about joining this war, who thinks about, going against this, and none of that's going to help you or anywhere else in the world. Chizkiah says, if you want to do something about this war, if you want the fathers and the daughters and the wives and the sons to be released from captivity, if you want this war to be on our side, where we win, you have to listen to this. And he says, now it's in my heart to seal a covenant to Hashem, so that his burning wrath may recede from us. We have to make sure that the wrath that's being brought on us goes to the other side. Goes to the side that's holding our people as hostages. Goes to the other side that somehow did so much evil that instead of it being recognized by the world as evil, it's actually being celebrated. And more evil is being created as a result of it. People are celebrating evil. Hundreds of thousands and even millions of people are celebrating evil right now. Instead of crying over it, or at the very least, condemning it, absolutely not. Why? This is part of the wrath. This is part of the wrath of God. And Chizkiah says we have to seal a covenant with Hashem so that this wrath recedes from us. And he says, my sons, do not be negligent, for Hashem has chosen you to stand before him, to serve him, and to be ministers and to burn incense. So the Levites stood up, Mahat, son of Amasai, Yoel, the son of Azarai, and the sons of the Kohatites, Kish, the son of Abdi, and on, all of these different tzaddikim came up and stepped up to the plate. But only after, Chizkiah says, we have to fix ourselves. We have a brit, we have a covenant that began at our forefather Avraham Avinu. Then it became much more significant at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, to the point where Hashem says that he'll never ever change the Torah, he'll never change these rules, and we violated those rules. If you want the wrath of God to stop, you have to go back to that covenant. You have to make a commitment to do tshuva. And that's going to free the prisoners that are our brothers and sisters, our mothers and our fathers. That's going to free the prisoners. That's going to make us win the war. Now, if you look at it in any other way, you're simply fooling yourself. Why? Because some people think, no, but listen, maybe we could just get peace. Peace in the Middle East. 2-state solution, 3-state solution, 50-state solution, endless state solution, communism. So everyone owns everything. Why does it have to be us winning? Why do we have to win? in order for this to end. Why do we have to win the war? What does it mean to win the war? Win the war means that there's no enemy left. Why? Why do we have to win? Why can't it just be a peace? Why can't just everybody goes back home? Say, okay, you know what? We caused enough damage. Places in pretty much has become a museum of debris. You guys are not going to do it again? All right, we'll take your word for it. But don't do it again. Okay, fine. All right, we're leaving. Why can't it be that? Why do we have to win? Why do we have to win, Rabotai? To answer that, Rabotai, we have to go back to Avraham Avinu. That introduces us to what is Ishmael. And then see if what the Torah and the sages say about Ishmael matches what people of today that I am personally familiar with, even students, others that I've seen their interviews, some I've spoken to. What do they say? People that are in the know. Not because they have an opinion, but because they have either been part of it or close to the issue at hand more than anybody else. The Torah says in Parashat Lech Lecha, the book of Genesis, chapter 16, where the angel tells Hagar to call the son that she will have Ishmael. V'karat shmo Ishmael. And he says to her, this son is going to be different than anybody else, this Ishmael. V'hu yeh pere adam, yado bakol v'yad kol bo. V'al pnei kol echav yishkon. The angel says to Hagar, this Ishmael, he shall be a wild ass of a man. Pere Adam. His hand against everyone, and everyone's hands against him. In so many words, everyone's going to hate him. And he's going to hate everyone. And over all of his brothers he shall dwell. Meaning, he's not going to be satisfied with a single place. Single country, single city, not even a single continent. He will want world domination. The descendants of Ishmael want world domination. In fact, that's what their Quran says. That even though over the last few hundred years they've agreed to not kill everybody that doesn't believe in the Quran, at least not on a regular, everyday basis, it's not because they now are tolerant and accepting of Judaism. It's not because they are now tolerant and accepting of Christianity or Buddhism or whatever other different opinion. No. But rather because their world domination's aspiration, the aspiration of them to dominate the world, allows others to exist so long as they comply with the rules. The rules of the Quran say that you're allowed to practice your religion, you're allowed to have your customs, but you're not allowed to speak bad about the Quran, disagree. You're not allowed to ride a horse or walk on the same sidewalk as someone that is from Islam. Why? Because if you're a Jew, you must ride a donkey to embarrass you for not being Muslim. And if you disagree or you violate the rules, death penalty. And ultimately, the goal is to convert everyone to Islam because no other religion has the right to exist. They'll tolerate it for a certain amount of time, but ultimately, the goal is either for people to die or to convert to Islam. In fact, this mentality, Rabotai, doesn't sound so bad. Apparently, everyone thinks that Judaism is the same, or Christianity is the same, everybody else is the same. But there's no aspirations of conquering the world in Judaism. There's simply just being in peace, following God, living in our land. The rest of the world can live wherever they want. But in Islam, there's no such thing. In fact, in Islam, there's no such thing as peace with the Jews. Because Muhammad, Yimach Shemo v'Zichro, who at one point spoke favorably of the Jews until they told him that they don't want to follow his Islam. They don't want to be Muslims. And in fact, in no less than 11 places, does the Quran say that even his own people, the Ishmaelim, called Muhammad a plagiarizer. That all of the good, valuable things that are in his Quran are really the ideas of the Torah. And all of the other stuff is not good ideas. In fact, one of the modern day experts, Dr. Kedar, who knows more about the Quran and Islam and the history than pretty much anybody else in the world. And he explains things in such a fashion where you're like, wait a minute, hold on a second. You're telling me that in 11 places in the Quran, the people that are supposed to follow Muhammad are saying he's a plagiarizer? They don't want to follow him? They call him a liar? So why would anybody follow this? It's because Muhammad had an excuse. It's not that he plagiarized the Torah, but rather he got the instructions directly from the angel, it's directly from God, and really the Torah of the Jews is the problem. And where is that problem most notable? Where does it begin? It begins in this week's parasha, Parashat Vayera, where we have the story of the Akedah, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks Avraham to bring his son as a sacrifice. And of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is simply testing Avraham in a way that's unlike how he tested anybody else throughout all of history. But this is one of the foundations of Judaism. This Akedah, that both Avraham and his son were willing to sacrifice their life for the sake of God. Where Avraham was going to kill his son, and his son Yitzchak was willing to die, just to do the will of Hashem. And this is to the merit of Am Yisrael till this day, where if you have extra strength, all of a sudden, because you're defending Judaism, you're defending the Torah, even though you were tired, even though you were exhausted, and you all of a sudden have the energy to fight for the sake of the Torah, that comes from Avraham Avinu. That comes from Yitzchak Avinu. Now Ishmael, as the Torah already said in Parashat Lech Lecha, he's a Perei Adam. He's a wild beast. Everyone's going to hate him. Everyone's against him. But Muhammad said, no, it's the opposite. The Torah is wrong, he says. This is why there's never going to be a debate between Jews and the Arabs about faith, because they don't believe our Torah is real. They believe there is a Torah that's real, but it's not the one that we have today. We changed it. And one of the things we changed is the foundation. The foundation of the difference between us. Which is Akedat Yitzchak. Torah says Akedat Yitzchak is of course called Akedat Yitzchak because Avraham is told from Hashem to bring his son Yitzchak as a sacrifice. But Muhammad, who was illiterate and didn't know how to write and didn't know how to read, but yet claims that the angel Gabriel spoke to him, and told him all these ideas, he says, really, the Akedah, the sacrifice, was with Ishmael, where Avraham took Ishmael and nearly killed him. So already from the beginning, we see that there was a crisis, a war, animosity, already back then, and needless to say, a couple of thousand years later. But what does it mean that Torah says that Ishmael is a Pere Adam? What does it mean, Pere Adam? What's Pere Adam? What is this wild ass of a man? What does that mean? Well, he's just crazy, he likes to go to rave parties. What is this? Why does everybody hate him? The holy Mefarshim, the holy sages teach us that Ishmael is unlike any other nation. Why? Everyone else is willing to make the major sacrifices and even fight for the sake of money. Ishmael doesn't care as much about money as he does about death and killing. He likes to see blood. Ishmael is a Pere Adam because he likes to see dam. He's a Pere Adam. He's a wild man because he likes to see dam. He likes to see the blood within a man. That's Ishmael. He has a desire to kill. So from already there, you see that, if he likes to kill, he likes war, how could there be peace? Well, before we arrive at the conclusion, we have to go to the experts. One of the founders of Hamas has a son who grew up under the influence and teachings of Hamas, under the abuse, both physically, psychologically, and spiritually, of Hamas. But needless to say, he was the son of one of the founders of Hamas. And already for the last decade or more, he's been speaking out against Hamas and Palestine, saying that, in so many words, they don't want peace. They have no interest in peace. They're interested in war. They're interested in annihilation of the Jewish people. And this is coming from a person that grew up in this. Furthermore, there was a person I recently found out about, a Ger Tzedek, righteous convert, named Yaron Avraham. And Yaron Avraham shares a name with me, and has the same forefather as me, Avraham Avinu. He grew up in Hamas. He grew up under the Palestinian influence. And he says that already, as a young kid, they taught them that their goal in life is to sanctify death. They, unlike Judaism that sanctifies life, Islam sanctifies death. Everything is for the sake of dying. And in order to get the people to follow this mentality, says Yaron Avraham in an interview with BHChesed, that the way for people to want to die and go to these supposable 72 virgins and supposable heaven that they're going to get, even though the way they died is by killing a Jew, by killing the enemy, not by living like a righteous person, but rather by killing the enemy. That's how they get all this. In order to get people to think like that, Yaron Avraham says, they already teach you everything that's necessary in order for you to lose your normal human fear of death by all types of brainwashing, showing people death, showing them punish people, putting everyone in graves which for anyone who's not familiar, may you not be familiar with it, but to go and be in a grave even for a few minutes will change a person's life forever. Many people come out of it crazy. And that's what he said. He said some of the people that came out of this grave lost their mind completely. He said there was a couple of guys, young kids, that were accused of inappropriate relationship between them. They made all of the other kids watch the evil leaders kill these kids in front of everyone. They didn't have any proof of wrongdoing. They had speculation, but that was already enough. That was already enough for them to kill two young kids. They killed Yaron of Abraham's sister. They killed a lot of people. They killed their own people. But yet, they were voted for in 2005 in Gaza. Why would the supposable civil and innocent civilians that call themselves Palestinians, why would they vote for a terror organization? An organization that is an expert in killing. Why would you vote for somebody like that? The answer is very simple, but hard for people to accept. When you have the same basic principles of faith, same basic beliefs, that means that aside from the way you look, that's different from each other, nothing else separates you. So, the Palestinians chose Hamas because they want Hamas. They want Hamas to defeat the Yehud, the Jew. Not by attaining peace, not by a two-state solution, not by a three-state solution, not by any state solution. Defeat the Jews. And the only thing that these so-called peace agreements do is give Hamas more time and money to arm themselves for the next war. Why? Because that is the basic principle of their faith. That they have to kill the Jew. Because the Jew is a kofar according to them. The Jew is not a son of a man or woman. They're sons of monkeys and pigs, says the Quran. And they're the enemies. Meaning that anyone that believes in the Quran automatically has to hate Jews. Even though there are some people that I'm even familiar with, that are friends of mine, that I know that they're Muslims. Why? How could they be friends? Because they're not religious. They don't follow the Quran. They were born into a Muslim family, but they don't follow it. They're secular. And many times, decent, very, very decent people. But Yaron Avraham says that if they're religious, then they're learning things that are going to make them hate the Jews. Because this being sons of monkeys and pigs, according to them, is not enough. They also kill and they do all these horrible things, which in reality, it's the opposite. But they try to teach people all this propaganda, all these fake information, in order to make people hate Israel as much as possible, to the point where they become so passionate about this hate that they're willing to die for it. But how does one get to the point where he's willing to die for something? Yaron Avraham says he has to lose that fear of death. In fact, think of death in a very positive way. And they change the mentality of society and anyone that follows them without many people realizing. Without many people realizing. And he says that they terrorize and beat up their own people, they kill their own people in front of people to make sure that everybody else is scared, worse than any mafia and gangster organization out there. And he says that the only language that they speak is violence. They have no interest in peace. There is no peace. Ever. Why? Because their book says that salvation will not come until all the Jews have either converted to Islam or have died. So if you're talking about not just a couple of million hooligans that live in Gaza and haven't developed a single toothpick to help their own people, if you're just talking about them, then we wouldn't have a conversation about it. We're talking about where there are literally billions of them around the world that are learning a book that tells them that their salvation will not come until they kill the enemy. Who is the enemy? The Yahud. Meaning that even from their own religious beliefs, peace is not possible. And even worse, the Yahud's belief system of sanctifying life, making life holy, is the polar opposite of the Muslim that sanctifies death. That dying to them is the goal. Hence the reason why there's videos of young Palestinian kids saying that they're ready to kill themselves for the sake of killing Jews. And some of them are not even 10 years old. Some of them are 6, 7 years old, 5 years old. All of them say the same exact thing. They hate the Jews. They are going to kill them. They're looking forward to being a suicide bomber. This is in their videos. This is publicly available material. They've sanctified the death. And therefore, Yaron Avraham says, peace is not possible. It's simply not possible. You could take ceasefire breaks, but peace, real peace, not possible. Furthermore, there was another person that I know personally that grew up with the same type of horrible environment of Hamas, of terrorism, of loss of concept of the value of life, the difference between good and bad. And they told me that already at the age of 5 years old, the parents take the kids aside, both girls and boys, and teaches them how to sanctify death, how to hate life, how to hate the enemy, by showing them videos of people getting their heads chopped off. And this is already 3, 4, 5 years old. Why? Because their book says salvation will not come until the enemy is gone. So from their perspective, the Muslim perspective, the Quran's perspective, the real life people that lived in that perspective, whether it's Dr. Kedar, or it's the other person I know personally, or countless others that have come up in the last few weeks, publicly denouncing what seemed to be their own people, but removing themselves from them. There's a few people that are decent human beings that have run away from this, but generally speaking, the vast majority vote and will continue to vote for Hamas, for terror, for sanctifying death. So according to their belief system, their teaching, their ideology, as well as the experts, Dr. Kedar, who is a world-renowned expert in everything Islam and the issues with the Middle East, or one of the sons of the founder of Hamas, or the person that I'm telling you about that already at 5 years old was being educated with amputations. All of them will agree. Peace is not possible. There is no such thing as peace between the Jews and Ishmael. Now you can have a ceasefire, slow things down, say, okay, you know what, let's take a break. And that would be a big mistake. Because number one, if you agree to a ceasefire, to them it's not a sign of you wanting to have peace, because peace is not possible. But ceasefire make the Jews appear weak and vulnerable in the eyes of Ishmael. They don't take it at face value of this is for the sake of peace. They take it as, oh yeah, they surrendered, we would have killed them anyway. And this is a whole mentality. So according to the people that grew up in Palestinian / Hamas houses, peace is not possible. According to the Quran, it's simply not possible for Israel to have peace with Ishmael. Not possible. Because in order for you to have peace with the Jews, as a nation, you have to destroy. So according to the experts, Dr. Kedar, the son of the founder of Hamas, the person that I know, peace is not only not possible between Israel and Ishmael, but they don't even understand why you want it. When you come to Ishmael with peace offerings, they have no idea why you want peace. But they're willing to entertain the conversation because they know that they can get a lot out of you. That's exactly what they do each time. They get more land, more money, more everything. They figure that if you already came to me with asking for peace, you must want something. Not realizing that they have a very, very big problem in front of them. Not at all. So the experts say what the Quran says. And just like the Quran teaches things that are against the Torah, that make Am Yisrael enemies, the people that are practicing it today believe the same thing, or in a matter of time they will. The Torah says it's also not possible because it's against the nature of Ishmael to have peace. Because remember, Ishmael is Peri Adam. He likes to see dam, he likes to see blood, he likes war. That's his desire, he likes to kill. Now, interestingly enough, the book of Ecclesiastes says that the one way that a person can, that knows the enemy that takes hostages, the enemies that does all these horrible things to the children, the daughters, the parents of Israel, and the book of Ecclesiastes says, then I trust my attention to appraising wisdom with madness and folly. For what can man who comes after the king do? It has already been done. Here Shlomo HaMelech in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 2 verse 12 says that the king's experience qualifies him to evaluate the difference between wisdom and folly. And there's no need for anyone to repeat the experiment, meaning, you're in my kinghood. I already know what's right and wrong, what's going to work, what's not going to work. Don't even try. Shlomo Melech says, this ideology is not going to work. Why? Because he says, I turn my attention to appraising wisdom with madness and folly. Meaning that it's not just about abandoning the truth, it's about adding some falsehood to the truth, or adding some truth to the falsehood. And Shlomo Melech says, the biggest danger is when they take wisdom and they combine it with madness and folly, where someone can learn Torah, but determine that every one of the sages was wrong, and he is right about any subject. So, for example, somebody makes a sin, and then he gets punished. But Torah says a person knows that he's going to get punished because he does it anyway. Shlomo Melech says there's one cure for that. I turn my attention to appraising wisdom with madness and folly means that I turn to the wisdom, to the Torah, but then I spend my time learning about the punishments of violating this Torah. And I learn it extensively to the point where it becomes cleaving to my heart. And also to the point where I see everyone else that doesn't know about reward and punishment, and needless to say, the fools, the mad people that decide that there's no punishment at all. Shlomo Melech says, those types of people that say that there's no punishment are the most dangerous. They're even more dangerous than Hamas, because they kill neshamot, not bodies. So Shlomo Melech says, if you want a cure to all the problems that we have right now, the hostages, the war, the attack, everything else, first and foremost, realize that you don't have that many options. One of the options is to forsake the death of soldiers that have died in the last few days and simply decide to cease fire and make peace for the sake of business reasons, political reasons, but not really the reasons that you started this fight in the first place. So the first option people could do is just vote and push and advocate and protest for peace. What does it mean, peace? Just forget about the fact that they murdered several thousand of your people and they would do even worse. No, forget about that. Ignore it. That's one possibility. Another possibility that people would think about is saying, you know what? I'm going to run away from this Islam, this Quran, this mentality of sanctifying the death. I'm going to run away from it. Shlomo Melech says, even if you run away from it, don't think that just because you run away from it on the way to acquiring some wisdom, don't forget that sometimes wisdom is what wraps some of the biggest lies out there. And some of the people that are lying about, Torah and things of that nature, create an enormous amount of tum'ah that's on their neshama and doesn't allow them to serve Hashem even if they want to. Don't serve Hashem, as best as you can. So, even if a person goes to the world of Torah, the world of purity, Shlomo Melech says, follow my lead. Learn about the consequence of violating this Torah. No less than you learn the rest of the Torah. Make sure that you know that violating the Torah is not only not allowed, it's stupid. Violating the Torah is not only forbidden, it's crazy. And if a person then realizes, okay, so accept the Torah, that's the solution. How could that win all of these battles? The Torah says in the book of Shmot, Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14, Adonai lachem lachem etem techarashun. God will fight your wars and you shall remain silent. Meaning that if we really had complete belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we were servant of Hashem, we would be like Chizkiyahu, and we don't even have to fight the wars. Hashem will take care of all of them. But since we're not, we have to understand what we're dealing with here. An enemy that teaches their kids to hate. An enemy that their primary goal in life is to kill you. An enemy that believes that our Torah is a joke. Because he thinks that Ishmael went to the Akedah. So come the experts, come the scholars, and tell us very clearly. You see all these problems? Hostages, the war, the missiles, and so on. That's because you're trying to speak diplomacy, peace, and righteousness to someone that hates all of that, to someone that ignores all of that, to someone that is known as the opposite of all of that. So stop trying to acquire peace. You have an opportunity to go to war, do the best you can. Pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As I said last night, 1,000 soldiers, 1,000 Torah scholars, just like Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what wins wars. Combination of the Torah and also the Maasim Tovim. But you can't go to war with one hand under, behind your back, or thinking that maybe you're doing something bad. But rather you have to get to the point where you realize this is the enemy. Even if it wasn't for what happened a few weeks ago, this is the enemy regardless. And there's no such thing as peace with the enemy. En shalom amar Hashem la'reshaim. Hashem said no peace to the wicked. So, if the wicked already did something bad for you and it gives you an opportunity to retaliate with all the power. Don't have any unnecessary mercy on people that don't have mercy on us. Because realize that in their books, they teach against us. In their books, they say they have to kill us. In their books, they have a history of some of their horrific crimes. So if you try to attain peace, Shlomo Melech says you're crazy. Because you're trying to make Ishmael do something that is against his nature. Peace is against his nature. Now, can you attain a ceasefire for a short period of time? A week, a month, a few months, even a few years? It's possible. It's not likely. Why? The desire for blood is very strong in Ishmael. They want war. That's the language they speak. So the suggestion is, listen to the Torah. The Torah says you have to kill whoever tries to kill you. If you know somebody's trying to kill you, it's your job to kill him first. Why? You have to sanctify life. You have to live in order for you to do mitzvot, in order for you to serve Hashem. But if you constantly try to politicize everything, discuss everything, debate everything, as if it has legs to stand on, you're missing opportunities to serve Hashem the right way. And that's why, Rabotai Karim, we have to listen to what the Quran says, we have to listen to what the experts that grew up in Hamas says, which is that there's no such thing as peace between Am Yisrael and Ishmael. The only thing that could possibly happen is ceasefire for a short period of time. Because as their children are growing up, they're learning all these horrific things that they want to do when they get bigger. Don't think that changes along the way. It gets worse. So, as far as peace in the Middle East, not possible. As far as this thing ballooning into something much bigger than what it is, certainly possible. Not ballooning into what it is, what it could be easily, also possible. What's going to push the decision from one side to the other? If we do what Chizkiyahu said, if we serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if we publicize His name, if we do complete tshuva, Hashem will take away all of these problems, all of these enemies. He'll release all of these hostages. And we're not going to be in a position where we have to literally cry over Am Yisrael on a regular basis just to give them more time in this world so they could have a life that is eternal. But we have to stop being delusional and think that a peace is possible or even a peace is good. Because it's against Ishmael, Pere Adam. Pere Adam because he likes dam. He's Pere Adam, he's a wild man, but it's because he likes blood. And BeEzrat HaShem, each and every single one of us will understand the truth, accept it for what it is, and do everything within their power to serve Hashem with this truth that's not looking for peace between us and the enemy, but rather peace between us and each other, and peace between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When we follow the Torah, we're able to attain all of it. Thank you very much for learning with me. I'll look at a few questions to see if there's anything urgent, and then we'll go from there.
All right, see, it's the questions, and not sometimes the questions are for you guys, to each other, discussions. Nothing that I need to answer.
Okay. Thank you very much for listening, learning. May Hashem bless each and every single one of you to take the full Torah, apply it to your life. Don't waste your time with anything else. Don't waste your time with news. Don't waste your time with heresy. Don't waste your time with arguing. And certainly don't waste your time with doing nothing. Take the Torah, sanctify life, and BeEzrat HaShem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, will fight our wars to the point where we have no need to fight or even waste any other time. We could just learn and publicize Torah. B'chai v'atzlacha to everybody, and BeEzrat HaShem will learn again tomorrow.